want live right in your sight, in your sight, in the God's eye, me want live right. Walk where you want me to walk. Talk where you want me to talk.
Hi guys, welcome. Mateela, your mic muted.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Walk That Talk.
How are you doing, Q?
I'm good. Good. Very, very good. God is good. No complaints on this end. And yourself?
I am good. The weekend passed by very quickly.
Yeah. Very,
But
very
I'm
good.
good.
All right. Lovely.
I'm good.
Lovely. So we're following up from last week, our episode with Big Brother Ronnie on courting versus dating. And as we would have established last week, from the Christian perspective and in Christian relationships, our preference is courting versus dating. So today we are going to take one step further, one step forward actually, and we are going to be discussing approaching dating. Candace,
Yeah,
approaching
guys.
dating.
So last week we spoke about approaching courtship.
Approaching courtship. Yes.
Yeah. So last week we settled that we put courtship. Courtship is what we're aiming for. So today we're gonna talk about how to go about courtship. How do you do this thing?
Yeah.
Where did I go wrong? What tips I could get, what nuggets I could get? So how else to know how to go about courtship than bringing people who would have courted and did a good job successfully and end up the end goal, which we discussed last week, is marriage.
Yeah.
So we wanna introduce. So guys, we have this couple coming in this evening. Like I don't know what I'm saying. Like my words just failing me this evening. Guys, by the way, y'all felt that earthquake. Listen. I am so glad that earthquake did not happen during WTT because I would have embarrassed myself on this show. So thanks be to God that earthquake happened before 5:30. Okay, guys. So coming on the show this evening, we have Bryant Henry and his wife Naomi. They got married recently this year. I think it was like a month or two ago. Probably they can't say when they jump on. They are familiar faces, two lovely people. I know them both personally, very, very, very welcoming. And I know that they're going to bring with us their knowledge, their experience. Brian is a pretty open person. So I'm looking forward to some nice open advice. And I know Naomi is going to give us that female perspective, and we're going to get a male perspective from Brian. So jumping on now, I guess they'll tell us a little bit more about themselves when they jump on. But jumping on now, guys, we have Bryant and Naomi Henry coming to jump in and drop those gems for us concerning a
My drum roll.
Hi everyone, good afternoon.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. It's so good to be with you all today. We were looking forward to this chat for a little while, So they already told us about it. So we, kind of anticipated having fun today with you all.
Yeah. I am very excited. I don't Candace-Joy, as she would have said, she knows you guys personally. I don't know you guys personally, but I am Brian's friend on Facebook. And from paying attention to Brian's page, I know today is going to be very good, very lit. Brian is very real, very open, but a lot of the time is very grounded in what he has to say. Yeah. And that is what we are about at WTT. Making sure that you guys know that the Christian life is an amazing one, is a good one to live, is one that's full of excitement and stuff like that. But at the same time, we do and we live like that, being grounded, right?
Yeah.
So last week, for those of you all that were on, hi Shanika and everybody that's there, we seeing you all. For last week, for those that were on, we discussed with Ronnie courting versus dating, and we would have established that courting is the correct context in which Christian couples should engage with each other, right? But the live was so lit that we forgot a whole segment, right?
Wow.
And I think God is good and Jesus does all things well. It sets the
Right.
stage for the perfect beginning of
Yeah.
this episode as well, right? And the part that we skipped would have been re-entering the market after a breakup, right?
Okay.
Um, Focus being on what steps do you take after a breakup before getting into another relationship? If you guys have experience in that area or thoughts in that area, we could start there for the afternoon, if that's okay with you guys.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I would definitely say after a breakup, I think naturally you just need to take some time to
Right.
to well, I can't even say, normally it's jump and say to heal, right? Healing is not the first thing that happens after you have a breakup. There's just a period of you just existing and literally feeling like you're trying to survive. All right.
Mm.
So while it would be good to say, yeah, take some time to heal, that comes and that is supposed to happen. But that's not the first stage at all.
Right.
Definitely the first stage is just a natural stage of mourning, you know,
Right.
and mourning, and that's MOURN, yeah, mourning.
Right.
Where we, yeah, that's no here for mourning. MOURN. I spelled it correct.
Yeah, he
I was
spelled it
gonna
correct.
say, I'm just making sure. Okay, good. Sure, just checking. Not spelling there. Ooh, I was concerned. Yeah. So, so there's that stage of mourning where you just go through that season of I don't know which. I guess a breakup could be difficult for two persons. Sometimes it isn't. But
Yeah.
if you are on the wrong, I don't know if you say the wrong side. If you're on the sad side, if you're on the broken side of the breakup, then you need to just take some time, even for yourself. And I think that is also a natural coping mechanism that humans do. They kind of pull to the self for a season. Um, I remember I didn't want to talk to anybody at all.
Mm.
I did not like. I want no friends. I don't want
Right.
to come out of my room. I don't want to eat.
Mm.
I don't want anything, right? I don't want to eat, and that's a big thing for me because that's
Right.
when I root stop, right? I
Right.
don't want to eat things bad. So
I see somebody putting in the comments here to banker. The Trini word is to
that's
banker.
what I'm saying. I think exactly. It was real bad to anchor. So and we I mean once you've lived for some time, you've gone through that stage. At some point, most people, yeah. And so we know what that stage entails. No one to talk to anybody, no one to have any kind of meaningful friendships. And just for even I don't know for different people it's a different period of time, but for some days, for some weeks, you just isolate yourself and go into that cocoon until I guess people start to reach out to you and they start to realize and that kind of thing. So definitely time. Just I don't even know if it's something that you have. Like I could tell people do that, but just it just happens. That it take time. Maybe Naomi could touch on something else or her experience, and then move on to the whole beautiful healing process, right?
Evening.
Okay.
Um, I know everybody has their own way of dealing with things. And for me, I am a person who, I don't know if some people like this, where they kind of fold into themselves and start to heal from that way in and then move out. What I found, at least I can speak from for myself, what I found was that I needed to rediscover who I was at that stage. Having been in a relationship for almost 5 years, thinking that marriage was literally happening in a few months or maybe in less than a year. For me, I needed to figure out who I was. I felt like I lost a lot of my voice. I lost the things that I liked. Sometimes we tend to become akin to what the person is, what they like, what they do, and you tend to lose a bits and pieces of you begin to strip away, especially if it's not a healthy relationship. Healthy in that it's not it can be sometimes toxic when you start to lose yourself. That is a toxic place. So if you are in a relationship where you are losing the very fabric of a decent human being that you are, and you find yourself always angry, or you find that the situation always has you feeling like it's a tumultuous relationship, you really need to stop and check and see, is this who I am? That really should be one of the biggest flags, and I think I just let that flag fly. So afterward, for me, it really was really redefining who I was and allowing God actually and a closer relationship with God to chisel me back into more of what I was before I met the person. And I'm sure that Bryant experienced a lot of the things that I was still left with afterward. And that was even more than a year after, but there still are things that you need to find or refine in yourself. Refine in both words, pun intended. There are things in your life that you may have left off, or places in your life that you may have slacked on, or things that you may have desired, maybe a better relationship with Christ, maybe a better prayer life, and you have those things have kind of weighed off to the side. Refine who you are. Refine and refine who you are. That for me is what I was doing for the months afterward until
You're right.
Until
So that's right. Dropping the gems early, boy.
yeah, not second. But as Nae is saying, and Bryant as well, I think like the time definitely is a very important factor. And Nae would have spoken about, dealing with it from the inside come out. And I think a very important aspect after a breakup is to do an assessment, like a self-assessment. A self-assessment, as Nae would have said, like, where did I go wrong? How did I? Yeah, and then you assess the relationship. What did not work for me? What were the issues that cropped up? Could I have done anything differently? Not necessarily to save that relationship, but for me personally, my experience has been I would have identified in that time space, and the time is different from person to person. I would say I had a time of like about 2 years or so where you actually unconsciously go through the relationship and you identify what would have gone wrong. And my focus would have been, Mateela, what could you do better? How could you improve? And I feel like if you don't go through that process, you don't spend that time alone, you don't do that assessment, you don't figure out where you went wrong, you don't mend in terms of going to God, asking God and the Holy Spirit to help you to understand, what could happen, then would you be ready to engage with somebody else, having not done that? And I think that is probably the beginning of relationships starting off on a kind of shaky foundation. Yeah. Candace?
No, I want to. Okay. So step one, they just give us step one. So I want to hear step two, healing. I listen and I all in. So they could go ahead with step two. I soaking in.
The healing process for most people is not always easy at all, because there's that challenge to literally wild out, right? I don't know how best to put that, but literally wild out. And what I mean by that is to find what you think could comfort you, and everyone has their own challenges, their own struggles, their own vices in a sense, and their own that thing that the enemy is quickest to hold over your head, to dangle that carrot nut to say, hey, come to this, right? So everyone has their own challenges, and no one is exempt from temptation. So everyone has their temptations that they have to deal with. And I think one of the key things we need to look out for is moving, is being swayed or straying to that temptation, straying to that dark alley that we know the devil would love to have us. And relationship is a thing. Even through a broken relationship, God can literally cause that brokenness to be the time in which you will, I'm going to say blossoming on you. Oh yeah, I'm going to say blossom. Right? But God will use that time of brokenness, to really cause you to, Mateela cracking up on me, right? But to use that time of brokenness to cause you to really blossom in due season. And it is a dark season. That period of brokenness, of course, we know is literally where that the seed that God wants to cause to 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 grow from your life, He puts it in the ground, and you literally feel like you're in the darkest place of your life. If you went through any form of tobacco, you know what I'm talking about. Is literally the darkest, one of the darkest times of your life, and you feel as though this is the end. I remember after my breakup, I was like, "Yo, I don't want nothing else." I know I wasn't turning to boys at all, but you see, woman, yo, all you caress all yourself because all you're different, right? That's how I felt. That's how I felt, and we all know when you're in a broken place, you harbor some negative emotions, and that is what I did at that point in time. So as Naomi was saying and as Mateela was saying as well, is really a time for some assessment. After some time, I was able to do that, and you have your back and forth of of one day you feel good, next day you feel terrible, one day you feel. We know how that works, right? Um, but what I will say is this: fast forwarding, the only thing that really worked for me, I don't know how people do it who don't really walk with Christ, and I guess most people would run to devices and that kind of thing. But what really kept me most of the times, because I know let me be real with you, sometimes I ain't engaged right. I had some days, yo, Brian didn't get it right at all, right? But what held me and didn't cause me to utterly fall was that the presence of God and not church. Church wasn't cutting it for me at that point in time. Um, it was really that same space in my room, that quiet time where it's you and God, and you don't even have the words to pray, but you're just there, and knowing God there with you, you're there with God. And sometimes I couldn't pray at all. I just couldn't. I don't have the words. I don't know what to say. And I would get into my word some days, and God would literally speak to me through His word, yo. And I think that was the most amazing thing to me. I felt strengthened like never before. Actually, that was some of the best walks with the Lord in that period of brokenness. Surprisingly enough, that was some of the closest, best
Yeah.
walk with the Lord. It's not like asking for that again. But yo, it was the experience and the tightness, proximity to the Lord was amazing. And I guess that was one good that came out of it, because I was able to develop and I was able to grow. And it took some time. That healing took some time. For me, it literally took about 3 years. And of course that was because the person I was in a relationship with, you see them all the time because we kind of in the same circles. You go to a concert, you see the person, you go, and it was difficult at time until that that process of forgiveness and really um, healing, that true deep healing came, where you could actually talk to the person and um, just when you see the person in your belly and so right? And we know what I feel. I see the person in your belly that's raw and you don't know what to do. But so that took about 3 years, and I'm really grateful that to say that it's really only the presence of the Lord that helped me. Worship music, just keeping my heart and my spirit in the right place. But it was a season of brokenness that caused me to be better today.
Brand, I like how you a number of things you said there. I want to comment on. Firstly, I think someone can run into not necessarily, okay, let me say a vice doesn't have to be something bad. It doesn't have to be like pornography. Somebody vice could be like food. Somebody vice could be
Yeah,
different things. So just letting the community know who listening
that's
there. When we
good.
say vice, we don't mean like the
Good.
person started to do some strange things. It's just
Yeah,
something that was giving them comfort at the time,
yeah,
and that
yes,
can be anything depending on what the person is into. And when you were talking there, for me, I am more like Naomi. You revert, you kind of go get to yourself and stuff. But even in healing, the isolation can be very damaging to you as a person. At a point in time, you need to get out of that little isolation zone and
Mhm.
speak, say what's going on inside of there.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
can you repeat?
Ooh, I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah, say what's going on inside of you because
Mhm.
it's one thing to withdraw, but I think your worst enemy is your mind and your
That's
thoughts
true.
and you said something with forgiveness and obviously once a relationship has ended, it's not good terms. I don't think anybody
Yeah.
most people are like, oh, you know what? Let's just not. I don't think it works like that. I
Yeah.
think a relationship ends on bad terms and it's hard. And
Most
something,
times, 90% of the times.
yeah,
But
most times.
yeah. But I actually had one relationship where it was just like, okay, you feel like, and this was after the main relationship. It was like,
Okay,
okay, you feel like, um, it was overseas relationship, and the person felt as though the Lord was telling them to stay longer because of course the goal of a relationship is our long distance
married.
relationship is to end the long distance, right? So yeah, that's the goal, right, of a long distance relationship. So after the time that was appointed that you would return, or we would, unite, the person felt like they would stay, the Lord was telling them to stay and do some more study and that kind of thing. And it was hard, yo. It was hard,
Mm,
but it wasn't like I was upset and I was angry. Uh, I
were
don't
you
know.
hurt?
Was it? Was I hurt, by? I think my first relationship prepared me for any kind of disappointment in this kind of life. So when that happened, I was just like, all right, cool.
I
It was
could.
that bad, yo. It was that bad.
I
But
believe
let's
you.
break
I
it down.
believe you.
But I think it prepared me for anything. So now it's just like, all right, so you want to stay and study, and I was like, okay, all right, cool. I just went and um I'm big on leadership, on leaders and having mentors in my life. But I forgot to say that
Right.
um as you were speaking about the point of the healing process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I went to my pastor and I said, Pass, in the same way how, when I was starting the relationship, I brought the young lady to her and we sat down in the living room and we say, this is young, and we talk and that kind of thing. And he gave, the blessing and that kind of thing. And I respect that. So in the same way when we were breaking up, I went to him and I said, this is the situation. She says she want to, stay and study some more. He said, all right, well, and that was that. I wasn't angry, I wasn't upset, but I was like, okay, it didn't work out. But let
Right.
me jump back a little bit to what you were saying before with the healing process and
Right.
opening up and having someone to speak to. I remember in the middle of the tabanka, in the heat of the tabanka, I think it was a week or 2 weeks into it proper, all right? I I not really a big cry in that sense. So I think that's worse, right? When you don't cry and you just bottle it. You just SM deleting the thing because you just locking off, tightening all the caps on your life. So I
Right.
remember calling a mentor about 8 o'clock in the night, one of my mentors, and saying, I can't handle this.
Right.
Falling up here, like, I can't handle this. And I thank God at that point in time, he had some time on his hands and he was able to say, all right, let me go and talk, huh? And literally,
Mm.
he put his open up his calendar, and I remember going to meet him like 9:30 because I was losing this, right?
Right.
I was losing this, and we met and we spoke about it, and the conversation. He brought some harsh realities to me in our conversation, boy. Because at that point in time, I wanted this relationship to work. I didn't want to hear nothing
Mm.
else. I wanted the thing to
Right.
work. And he said, "What if it is the will of the Lord that it doesn't work out? I don't know if the Lord talk to this man and tell him that this thing was going to work out, but or he just understand the strain I was under and realize, hey, what thing right here, you getting abused. But anyway, um, he was able to speak into my life and just encourage me, even though it wasn't what I wanted to hear. But I was able to unbottle and open up to him, and it's so important for us, yo. I tell people all the time to have a mentor. have somebody you are accountable to, and somebody you can open up to, and let them know your deepest, darkest secrets. I can tell everybody, hey, I'm losing my mind here, and I'm about to do something very foolish and carnal, right? I can tell everybody that, but there's one person, a mentor, who I could have opened up, and I felt open to let him know the darkest parts of my life, and that's important that we have somebody we can do that to.
Yeah, before Matilda just jumps back in, that was a key thing I just wanted to add there along with your point of forgiveness. And I think that is one of the key foundations we need to get before we jumping back. I can't remember the term we're using. We're approaching courtship. Before we reapproach it, I think I think that Naomi was saying you had to deal with some of the effects of her last relationship. I think she said something like that. I could be wrong.
No,
But
you are right.
yeah, I think that's a key thing. And it's what we're approaching courtship thing is to release the person who you're holding, and then sometimes release yourself, because sometimes they can be so obsessed with yourself, like I actually allow, or I actually was so,
That part,
you know. So that's just my
healing,
point.
as part of that healing process, if I would just jump in before Mateela comes back, is to really forgive yourself. We talk about forgiving the other person, but a lot of the times we do not forgive ourselves. We make mistakes in relationships as well. It's not always the other person. And not just for the mistake, but for not literally picking up the flags and running with them. Sometimes we allow the flags to just keep flying, and we don't really look at, okay, why did I allow this to continue in my life? Why did I allow myself to continue to feel this thing? And you know fully well that what you believe in, and what you should accept and what you should not accept. And sometimes you get caught up in they are Christian and I am a Christian. Sometimes you get caught up in that and not realizing that sometimes there are people issues that people need to work out. As Christian as we are, there are people issues that we really do need to work out. And we do not forgive ourselves sometimes. And for me, that was one of the major things that I was still dealing with when I met Bryant. I really did not forgive myself for a lot of the things. And something else that I kept was that I was made to feel as though I was not good enough. And that is a burden that only you not only God can release you, can relieve you of. I feel. I know that we talk about women empowerment and just really self-care and all that. We talk about that, but then sometimes after we self-care, we go home and we cry ourselves to sleep because we do not feel like we're good enough. Not because we think that, but because somebody has made us feel as though what we say isn't good enough. The way we present ourselves isn't great enough. The way we do a particular act may not be up to their standard, and they can't even do it, but may not be up to their standard. And sometimes we take that on as our own persona, and we bring it to other people. We don't really talk about that part. We bring it to others. And we always hear hurt people. But do we really address those hurts that are caused sometimes by ourselves and other times by others, sometimes where we don't forgive ourselves for the things that we've allowed others to implant into our lives? So I just want to put out that forgiving yourself part.
Definitely. So, I mean, we didn't get into any details, right? But from what you guys would have said, it would be the case that, I mean, even last season, we would have spoken about dark phases and trials and tribulations, and how sometimes these negative and dark experiences that we go through are actually a part of God's plan and purpose for us, in order to refine us and to draw things out of us that are necessary for where He intends for us to go. So both of you would have shared, the exit of previous relationships, and you would have also given a little insight into how it would have affected you moving into the new relationship. But the question I want to ask is, would you say, based on your past relational experiences, that you could now look back and say, I see why I had to go through that, because that helped me to understand this about Nae, so that I could treat with Bryant in the right way, so that I could treat, it helped me, Bryant, to recognize that I need to adjust why, so that when Nae comes, I am in a position to do for Nae and to be for Nae what Nae needs me to be.
Yeah. Definitely. I think even the end of my last relationship, well, the tumultuous one, it, it would have stretched me so much and it stretched me to the point where I was willing to do anything to make this relationship happen, and that's a terrible thing. Um, that's a terrible thing because what that could open up yourself to is you being abused or allowing someone to abuse you, however you want to put it. But you open up yourself to the different forms of abuse, and you are comfortable with it because you want it to work so badly. And I think that that was part of my situation. I was literally willing to put my ministry um, and in the background, like at the side, just to focus on this, because I guess part of it was kind of becoming just timing, and so was kind of becoming an issue. I would believe. So I found myself in that place where I was willing to do anything to make it happen, and that's a terrible place to be because, as I said, it opens up yourself to you just um, allowing anything, or as she was saying, allowing anything to fly. And I was stretched so much in that relationship, and me trying to exhibit the fruits of the spirit in that time and in that season, I think it would have prepared me for this young lady's here early monster stages, right? Early monster stages, and that's the best way to put. Remember, we were talking about sometimes you bring some stuff from your last
Yeah,
relationship into this one, right?
yeah,
So
Yeah.
right.
she came she came in, um, very very nice, and then
Nice.
I realized she had Vanga, right? She was very vangry. That's vangry is when you're very angry, right? She was vangry. Alright? And I started to see that, listen, this girl took a plane and ran away from me. This girl went in the next country, guys. But anyway, that's our next story, right? she it was crazy because the Lord would have told me, and I don't want to get into, we could probably get into it at some point in time, but the Lord would have confirmed to me that, here, this is the young lady for me, right? In many, many different ways. And listen, I made up my mind. I said, okay, God, this is, I know what your voice is sound like now because we've been through it. After that brokenness, I know what you sound like. So when the Lord confirmed it to me, madness started to take on, right? Of course, things start to flare. I don't know what she was angry for. You're going to be answer to this day, make no sense, right? But it was a, I believe it was a plan of the enemy, and I just thank God that He worked it out, some prayer and fasting and thing, and it fixed that. But that is so true. Like we come into the relationship with things, and what was the first question you asked?
What prepared you?
Oh, yeah, what
What
prepared
do you
me?
think that it prepared you for the future?
Of course. Yeah, many different angles that we could take that from the preparation. But I think me being stretched so much in that relationship and just trying to exhibit the fruits of the spirit, it prepared me for that even pre-season of our courtship where things it could have done there. If I wasn't maybe stretched that much, I'd just be like, yo, it's that fire for this. I ain't going through that again. Always, I know all I was stressed and I will continue to be stressed. I guess stay single for the rest of my life. This I make it no sense. Good? So that's where I was at.
So the question that was asked. It was whether the past relationship would have prepared you for this one. I honestly think that one of the ways, which I don't know if he remembers, but one of the ways that I think God prepared Bryant
Mhm.
to deal with whatever I was dealing with, was that he would speak to him. I honestly believe that God speaks to Bryant directly. I believe that I have no doubt in my mind that he believes that happens. I say that because there was one particular conversation where I think we had
Cleaning up.
spoken for maybe
Yeah.
a few months,
Mhm.
and I was right in my kitchen right here, and he said to me, in the middle of the conversation, just like that, like, what? He says to me, "You are enough." He says 3 words to me, and I bebe down on anything. What? With tears. And I knew that it was not him speaking to me. I knew that it was definitely God speaking through him to me. I knew that for a fact. Because in that moment and at that time, I was still feeling, like I was saying before, that nothing I did was good enough, or that I was not good enough. I knew I knew what I could do. I knew what I could bring to the table. I knew my purpose. I knew that my ministry was to usher people into the presence of God. I knew all of those things. Yet still, there I was, big worship leader, yeah, big prayer warrior, but you think that you are not enough. You think that you are not doing good enough. You are not good enough. You don't bring the best. It's like, what are all these things that you're walking around with? And I really think that that is one of the ways that God prepared you for me. He really did bring him to a place where he's able to hear the voice of God. And if he didn't say that to me at that point in time, I really don't think that I would have, at that very moment, lost that, I call it a chain. I honestly do not think that I would have lost that chain at that moment. And I believe that in that very moment, God himself, through him, spoke those words to me, and I never felt like a burden anymore. I stopped feeling like I was a weight to somebody's life. I felt at that moment that God was saying, "You are enough. I have seen you. I know you, and you are enough." That's what I felt in that moment. The 3 words. So that is how I feel God prepared him for me. That's just one instance.
Yeah.
And the thing, sorry to interrupt you, Naomi, but one of the things coming out of a broken relationship, as you mentioned earlier, is that you lose yourself, and you question your being, everything about you that you knew to be. You're wondering if that is who Candace-Joy really is, or Mateela, or somebody else who's listening. And when the relationship ends, as you are now cornered, it's just you and God now, and now God has the opportunity to work on you and deal with your insecurities, the issues, because in a relationship, in a relationship, your weaknesses and your mess come alive. You realize, oh, I am in a mess. Certain things that trigger you, certain things that bother you is because I am messed up. And in coming out of a broken relationship, you are literally, well, once you avail yourself, driven to the feet of God, because it is desperate sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think out of that is where your point, Brian, comes with. You bloom. Like you just, I don't know, it's just like a fresh awakening. I don't know if somebody isn't saved, they might probably say it's bad mind, you make yourself do better, you force yourself to do better to prove a point. But genuinely, you are driven to do some deep introspection. One, you have this urge to find out, God, how can I be better?
Yeah.
And then you build such a strong relationship with God. I think anybody who really avails themselves to God after a broken relationship will hear the voice of God very audible, because you have nobody else to hear. So I agree 100% with what you all are saying. Man, you all are doing such a really good job. I really want to say, Brian, that you are enough, Lion. I would have shot long one time too, yeah? I was good.
And it's funny that Candace mentioned that, because I wanted to jump back to that, and I think this will probably usher us into what we intended to be discussing today, with in terms of approaching the relationship, is that what Nae said about that you are enough and her baby and down the place, that really resonates with me, because it says to me that Bryant was able to speak into you and to I don't want to use the word minister to make it sound too churchy, but Bryant was able to speak into you and minister into the very thing that was crippling you and your perception of yourself and what you had to offer to him. And I think, or my conviction is, I believe that in a relationship, that is what is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Each party is supposed to speak into the other person, speak into their weaknesses, draw out their strengths, and all these things. So, that being said, after the bevering down knee, what was your, I mean, you probably would have been engaged already, meaning engaged in the sense that chatting with each other, talking with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would have been your approach, Nee, after coming out of the relationship and Brian passing in front of you? What was your game plan, or what was your strategy in approaching this relationship with Bryant?
Hmm. Haha. Ah, yeah. I don't know.
Oh,
But you like, but I know
you tell the story. No, you tell the story. That question was directly to you. You tell the story. I give my part already.
Yeah, sorry.
You want to know how did I approach the new relationship or
Correct.
the new
Mm-hmm.
advances of the young man?
Correct.
I didn't know who he was, but he inboxed me, DM, it went down in the
Sorry.
DM. Went down in the
What?
DM.
Sorry. 2020, yo, that's yo. We in,
We in COVID,
we in,
like you can't meet anybody outside. DM them.
I mean, it
Anyways,
was like 3 years ago, but
there are some crazy people out
Brian,
there.
it was ahead of the time.
that was saying too. That was saying too. That was saying.
You know. I'm happy that you asked me this question because he would have said that I ran him down. So
That's
let's
usually
just start
my
right
my answer.
there. He messaged me very, very simply, and he said, "Hey, I like this picture of you." Well, he said, "I love this picture. It's a very basic picture. It's a headshot.
I like it.
It's a headshot. I love the picture. It's black and white, no color on the screen. It's a headshot. I'm in a blazer, I'm in a
No,
jacket, a
uh,
shirt,
I'm
and
a
a tie.
cardigan.
A cardigan, a shirt, and a tie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a pic. That's it. Just a picture with a phone in my hand, and that's it. Black and white. And he messages me and he says, "Oh, I love this picture." And I said, "Oh, okay, thank you. But I know there are crazies out there." So that was the end of the conversation. I think I went to his page maybe a couple weeks later on because he'd messaged me in between, and I don't really check. I was not really a Facebook person. During the time of the last relationship, I kind of just shut down all of my social media. I was not on social media for about 4 or 5 years. So I was not on Instagram, was not on Facebook. As a matter of fact, I joined Facebook for school. There were classes that we were doing online. The lecture wasn't that well. And she picked up the classes online. And we went back and forth a few times for over a period of months.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was left on red
Months.
many times because I don't know who you are,
Weeks.
and I
Weeks.
don't
I am
speak to
on
people,
red.
and I don't speak to unknowns.
Weeks, guys.
Anyways,
Weeks. Fellas, pain.
I went to his page and I kind of tried to
Notice.
figure out who he was. I had no idea who he was. So I went on his page, kind of looked at it, and I realized that he was really into empowering young men. They would meet. I saw videos of them meeting together to pray for the nation, for ministers, and I saw those things happening on his page, and something about it felt genuine. It just felt like this is genuinely who this person is. And then he seemed to be very wild because he had some very interesting quotes on there. Anyways, fast forward from all of that. I think I kind of told the story before, so I'll just speed through it. At first, I was not interested. I had no interest. To answer your question, I had no interest in seeing anyone and meeting anyone and being in any relationship. I had no interest in that. I had never dated anyone before, ever. It was not something that I thought was a good idea. I just think that dating multiple people leads to issues, as the one you would have shared last week. It's absolutely not a good idea. You may have one thing in your head and the person has something totally different in their mind. If you want single dating and they're on multiple dating, please run. Do not engage in that. Anyways, I'd never dated anyone before. And I met him at Faith Assembly International. Randomly, he saw me. I didn't know who he was. He called me out from the darkness. I don't know you.
Yeah, and Miss
He's
Nae,
like,
you know,
"Hey,
from
Nae,
Facebook.
I know that I have been off the grid for the past 4 or 5 years. Nobody knows me. I'm from South Penal, and I had moved up this way for work and school. So I knew that nobody knew me at all. So there is no way that nobody is calling me from any shadows by Faith Assembly." Anyways, fast forward from that, he came inside. I kind of brushed past that whole hi and went inside. And he came inside after me and said, "Hey, my name is Bryant." And I said, "Oh, hi, so nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "It'll be really nice to get to know you."
You missed the part when I called her the first time. I was there with Ernie Lord. I don't know if you all know Ernie Lord, right? I am there. Yeah, no. First time I called, I said, "Hey, Nae." I said, ask Ernie. I said, "Ernie, and that is Nae Williams from Facebook." Ernie is like, "Yeah." So I said, "Hey." I said, "Hey, excuse me." Beep. Ignore. Ignore. The girl did not see me, did not hear me. Ernie look at me, I look at Ernie, and Ernie just kind of turn away because when they feeling shame for somebody, like when somebody kill out somebody and then here, Ernie just kind of help my shame.
We do that fast forward version.
I still hurt to this day. still traumatized.
That is not true.
Go ahead.
That is not true
Right,
because
so
you came inside and said hi. So
I did.
and he said, "You're such a nice person." And I said, "Yes, I
I did.
am."
I
He
went
said,
back,
"Well, you
fellas.
were
I
nice.
went back.
You were nice to me outside." So that it was very important that he came back to say
I went
hi.
back, fellas.
Because sometimes you may not know that the person just. First of all, I was not going to the event. Like Candace was saying earlier, you kind of tend to. Well, I tend to pull into myself, and I didn't go to any events. I didn't go to anything, nothing for the 5 years before, and then in that period, about a year and a half. So Candace is right. Get up and go out. Get up and speak to somebody. But it was the first time that I was going out, and I just didn't want to go because I don't talk to people. I don't know anybody. And my friend who I had asked to take me said, "Listen, I'm already outside by you, and I know you're ready already. Come on, let me carry you so we can just get things over with." So fast forward from all of that. What was the next time? I'm sorry. He kept messaging me, guys. So my approach to his messages were, I know, but she asked me how I approached it.
Sorry.
My approach to his messages were to try to figure out the person that he was. It wasn't about the fancy conversations. I find you nice. I find you nice too. No.
Whoa, I was not doing that.
No, you weren't. I'm just saying that's not what you should do.
Just getting that out there.
He did not.
What? Don't do that.
He did not. So my approach to the conversations were to figure out who this person is. Try to get to their core. As Ronnie was saying last week, WhatsApp each other, but we weren't WhatsApping because I don't give out my number. So on Messenger, really tried to figure out who the person was on the inside. So I brought up all kinds of topics. And no matter what topic I threw out at him, he was able to hold a conversation on it. And that was very important to me. It was important for two reasons. I felt like it was somebody who was not just down to earth, not just sound, and was a person of the word. First of all, I didn't know he was a pastor, guys. I did not know he was a pastor.
That was important.
The first time he invited me to go anywhere, it was to church. He was going to minister to church, and I did not know he was a pastor. And I found out when he was called up to preach that he was a pastor. He did not at any point in time mention that he was a pastor. Anyways, it was important for me to identify who the person was. And so I asked questions about his opinion on things, his thoughts on things. Something in the country might happen or in the world, and I would ask a question. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think could have been done otherwise to make it a different situation? And that to me is how I approached it. I wanted to get to know who this person was. I had no thoughts of marriage. I had no thoughts of relationship. I just figured, hey, he could hold a conversation. He's an intellectual. That is very important to me. He's an intellectual. And he was down to earth. I really needed to get to who he was. And that was my approach. What was your approach? So moving on from the relationship.
I guess my approach was I didn't trust my picking skills anymore. I didn't trust it because the previous relationship was supposed to happen and supposed to work, and I thought that hey, this thing was it, and it wasn't. So I was kind of very, very slow on it, and while I don't know, I feel God set me up, yes. I feel God set me up, but yeah, I feel God set me up. So I think I just um yeah, I think I kind of left it up to God. I don't want to say that I buried myself in ministry. That's not the right word. But I literally kind of just focus on what that's what I did. I focus on the things I was sure about. I remember
Okay.
that. Ooh, I remember writing that down in my book and this time in my diary. I focused on the things I was sure about. I was sure
Right.
about I love God. I was sure about I was called to empower young men. I was sure about I was called to study the word and preach the word. And I focused on the things I was sure about. What I wasn't sure about was relationships. So that kind of secondary. But I focused on those key things that I know for sure. This is what God was saying to me. And God kind of do the rest, you know. God kind of do the rest. God kind of do the rest. So, because even when I saw you online, like I don't even know like if we had some mutual friends or anything like that. But I was interested. I was interested in that. I saw the picture. I was like, yo, this picture bad because you really see girls like wearing cardigan and tie and shirts and that kind of thing. So I was like, yo, this like I like this flow now. This what you call it? I like this vibe. So I'm messaging and say, hey, I really, this picture, I like this picture. And God kind of literally took it from there.
It was a
Like,
Um,
whirlwind,
like,
literally.
woo.
Something you said, Brian,
Mhm.
rolled the topic right into what I think Mateela would have said the basis of this question for. Is it that Naomi's picture for you, and Naomi, is it that Brian's love and passion for men and for the things of God and the way he spoke, is that what drew you in? The question I want to ask is, what was your standard? That's the next thing you want to get. What was your standard for your next relationship? Is it that you would have said to yourself, okay, so in my next relationship, coming out of my broken relationship, in my next relationship, I just want the total opposite of what XYZ was? Or is it
Opposite.
that I want to get what I saw my parents had? Is it that I want to get what my mentor, because Brian, you said you had a good mentor. Is it that I
Yeah,
want a pattern after
too
what
good,
my
man.
mentor? What helped you to set your standard in approaching this courtship all over again? Is it what inspired that? What inspired it? Is it that I'm not this question, I don't mean it any type of way. This is just an example. Is it that the way Nate dressed is the total opposite to the way your ex dressed? Or is it that
Mhm.
for you, Nate, the way that Brian spoke, his passion was the total opposite to the person who you were with? What helped you all in setting your standards so that you all knew, okay, this time around, I'll go in with this approach or with these standards.
What are you looking for, Candace? Is it like what were you looking for? Like
Right.
this, I finished with that one. I'm moving forward now. What I looking for? I want this, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. Did you guys have like that list of
Okay.
Mateela,
this
like
is
you
what
have
I'm
your
looking
list.
for?
You doing
I think
that like your list.
you know, this question.
Yeah.
um, I did not have I what I was looking for was kind of similar
Were you
to
looking?
well,
I like that question.
I wasn't necessarily looking. That's the lady truth. But I I wasn't
You
looking
knew what you
passionately. You
wanted.
know, some people just be looking, yeah, I need a man, I need a man, I need a man, I need a woman, I need a woman. It wasn't that. All right. I was focused on doing what I was doing, and it was, God was directing me in areas of ministry and that kind of thing, and that was good. Um, for me, I wanted to get to know her and to get to know who she really was, kind of like what she was looking for, what she was saying about me, and not to know people on the facade and to know people for who everybody else think they are. To know you as this, person out there, a popular person, whatever. Not to know that, but to really get to know the truth about who this person is on the inside. And I think I started to, after some time, spend some time with her family and that kind of thing. So I got to know. And the family real truthful. Like they don't judge me. Them don't care about who you is. Nothing. Them just you there okay? You're not there. Them talking, and I like that. So you got to know her in a family setting and that kind of thing, and that was important for me because I wanted to know, of course, who she really was. So that helped me. Um, but I don't think like I had a list per se. I mean, yeah, I have my basic list, which might is a generic sentence out there. But I have my list. You want somebody who loves God. You want somebody who's passionate about God, who not surface, who can hold deep conversations, that kind of thing. But that wasn't my focus too much. Like it wasn't like a dating situation. Like okay, if she ends, then I discard her and move to somebody else who could possibly it. It wasn't that. Um, I think God set me up by. I
Yeah,
think
that's
God
your
set me up.
that's your tagline for life. God set
Yeah, I
you up.
think God set me up. It's like it was a setup. It was literally a setup. Let me read, right?
Well, Brian,
Um,
let me just interject to ask you a question.
mhm,
The things that you would have listed out, right?
mhm.
Did the relationship that you mostly draw in reference to yet, did that person meet that criteria for your original list? Did that person at point in time met the needs of that list?
I
Because
would believe.
I'm saying that to say
Mhm.
sometimes you get what you want, but you realize what you want is not what you need. You get
Yeah,
what you want
I
on the
think.
list. When it reaches like
Yeah, yeah. In the generic sense, my list is across the board. So I believe the person before would have met that criteria as well. But I kind of more lean in I can't even say it's in the theological sense, but when it comes to relationships, I more lean to the side of this one person that God prepared for you. I know that was a topic from the beginning of time. Is it does God select up from a pool, or can you select from a pool of people who would be adequate for you, or is it one person? My experience real specific. So it God will not playing with who I get into a relationship and who I marry. Well, who I'm married with. He ain't playing with that. And while I don't want to make it a doctrine to say for sure all of the time you have one person who you are assigned to marry in all of the world, while I don't want to make it a doctrine, I have seen many, many times that that is the case. And for me, that was the case. I can't marry anybody else, especially with all the confirmations that God gave me, right? So I met her in 2017. In 2012, as a kind of basic fella, some people think there's a real special vibe. I don't really that. I kind of basic. So I have, and I'm maybe not there's not the platform to share this one either, right? But I kind of have one password for everything. So you have your Facebook, you have your Messenger, you have your email, your billing, all kind of accounts, right? About 4 different things. I have one password for everything. One password, and I just change numbers at the end, right? In 2012, I set a password that I had for the last 5 till I meet her, right? Now her name on Facebook is Nae. Nae, right? We know that it's still on Facebook, that kind of thing. Don't want to we got problems. kidding, kidding, right? So her name on Facebook is Nae, right? Sometimes after talking to her, like the first few times that we were speaking, in the middle of the conversation, God stopped me. And I was like, what's your name again? I talking to her and I said, what's your name again? She said Naomi. And at that point in time, I feel to run out the building. I feel to run out the place. Because her name was my password for the last 5 years on everything. On everything. I just changed the numbers for the last 5 years. To the point I met her, you know what I'm telling you? I almost jumped in my car and just drive home. That real sci-fi X-Files kind of thing.
yeah.
And that happened just after, like about 10 minutes after. While speaking to her, the Lord tell me, there's your wife. In the same conversation.
Same first conversation in person,
It was the
guys.
first one.
Well, it's a second one, but it's
Yeah,
the first
yeah,
real
that's the first real
conversation.
one.
Imagine you're talking to somebody that you do not
Oh,
know.
yeah, I real sorry, but
You do not know this person from Adam. They invited you to church with them. You didn't know they were a pastor. You find out that same morning when they call him up to minister. And he was a pastor for years. How much? Over 11 years at that time. I did not know this. He brings me home. I make food, he brings me home. And we having a conversation from whatever o'clock to almost minutes to 7. Just a conversation. At no point in time did the conversation go up. Just a conversation about all kinds of things, about Christ, the word, all kinds of things. And
Right.
this person who looks at you and pauses for like a good 5-10 seconds and then says, I don't know how you're going to take this, huh? But I just hear God saying that you are my wife. That is madness.
I real sorry to take
And then
all your interview.
you're talking about setting the standard,
Walk
right?
that up. I sorry to take all the interview here.
He had
To take all the
a
interview in this one place.
He had a list. He had a list. I didn't have a list. I knew what I needed. And I didn't really focus too much on my wants. I didn't have a physical requirement. I didn't have, as a Christian and as a person who believes in God and understands the work and the ministry that I'm called to, I expected that God would align me with someone who was of like and somebody who could lead me. So I understood that that was a requirement. But to say that I put it down on a list, I didn't do that, because you were asking, how did you set up this? No, I wanted to run. The advice I gave myself to the next situation was run. Do not attempt, do not enter. I had no intention whatsoever. So that standard that you're asking me about?
Sure, doing a good job at the running too, eh?
No.
Plane ticket and all, New York. I didn't even listen.
No.
Anyway, I have the next story.
The standard was finding somebody or understanding someone who could lead you.
Okay.
Right.
And that was
I like
very
that
important to
really.
me. I felt like, now a man is the head of the home, we understand that, but being a head does not mean that you are the authoritarian and you dictate what happens. Yes, you do. But the word dictate there is a very strong word. Your purpose and your call as the head of anything is to lead it. And if you are not in a position where you feel like you can lead your own body, imagine you trying to lead an entire home. That is a sure plane crash. So for me, while I did not write it down, I knew for certain.
Very interesting.
Yes, Bryant, I got on a plane and left for 3 weeks. Yes, I did that. If you want me to admit that, yes, I did. Because I thought that I was, at that point, after that conversation, we jump in, very stay on course. So while I didn't write it down, I knew that the requirement was having someone who could lead me. Now, as women, we need to understand that we are a handful. We need to know that. We have many seasons, we have many shades, and sometimes we could be a little bit much. We need to admit that to ourselves. And so, can you find someone who could handle your heart even in those situations? Can you find, is the person in a place and in a position spiritually and emotionally to really handle your difficult moments, to handle those times when you're really not even feeling to talk to anybody right now? Can they handle your heart even when you're in that time? Are they still respectful? Are they still caring? Do they still check in on you? Is that something that happens when you are off? Not when they're off, when you off. Does that still happen from them when you are off your little rockers? We always go off a little bit sometimes. So finding somebody that could lead me was very, while it wasn't written down, it was an understanding that I had. It was an understanding that I had and knew was very pivotal to anywhere else I was going in life. As it pertains to marriage, it's very important that having someone who can lead you, one, and leading also means understanding the person, like I said before, even in their little shaky moments. When they're having them kind of crazy times, leading also that's also leading, because it's the ability to handle this person's heart with care, even in those fragile kind of times. So for me, leading was not about finding somebody who could tell me what to do. I had that already. Or finding somebody who could take advantage of your strengths and take advantage of your weaknesses. But finding somebody who could lead you spiritually who can protect you spiritually, not no fighter man. We're talking about no gun man. Protect you and handle your heart with care. So that for me, if I were to really surmise what my list was, because we like to write lists, that really was the understanding that I had of what the standard for whomever it was supposed to be.
And let me just say this quickly. Like we're talking about standard. I think I didn't have a written standard. Like this is what I look for. But I think my standard kind of it built in by just you've been. Well, for me, you've been in the kingdom so many years. You've sat under so many good leaders, so many good youth leaders. I sat under Pastor Earl Joseph, Sandra Swift, literally drilling these things into your heart and into your mind. And maybe some people didn't have that, weren't fortunate as me to have people like that who would literally teach you what to look for. So while I didn't have the list, I think I would have, of course, I would have met people before her. But you just kind of shed the things that are not on your list. And of course, if you did, just naturally, as a man, you're talking to people and you realize, okay, and I guess we all do it every day. We choose our friends wisely and you allow people to come a certain distance to your life and to come into a certain proximity. For me, I just kind of, shed, I guess, the person that will not be that adequate fit that you believe that God has for your life. And I don't mean that in any bad way. It's just you protecting your space, protecting what God has invested in you as well. So while I didn't have a standard written, my standard was inbuilt in me, built in me, so that I knew this is what I know that the Lord will be acceptable, would find acceptable when that time comes when I meet that person.
So essentially, for both of you, then you you knew what was in you. You knew what your purpose was.
Yeah.
You knew, and I really, really, really like Bryant's the way you would have coined it, in that you were focusing on the things that you were sure about.
Yeah, that's it.
So you knew what you were about. You knew what God had you to do. So, in terms of approaching courtship, it would more or less probably could boil down to compatibility. Could I say that? Could this person, or was this person complementary to these things that God has put into me, these goals that I have, these visions that I have? Would you say compatibility of purpose and compatibility, meeting of the minds, was something that was in the forefront in terms of approaching the courtship?
So he has said this before, and I know he probably wants to say it again, that God kind of set him up. God set him up. So I don't know that, I don't know if you want to answer, but I don't know that we can say that, well, you matched me, or you matched my drive, and you matched my compassion for people, or you matched my desire for God and my love for God. I can't say that. I can't say that. I can, looking back at it now and looking at the person that he is and understanding who he is and what God has invested in him and what God has put into him, I understand fully that it is exactly what I need. But to say that I would have known all these things and then decided that he is compatible to me, that was not my experience. That conversation that we're talking about, where he invited me to church and then we sat and spoke for hours, that was one of our very first conversations. Now imagine that being a very first conversation. Generally, I don't know where to I don't really have nowhere to go from there. I think from there, literally from that conversation, I would say maybe weeks after you went getting your like prayer and fasting or something in church, and somebody just called him out from the back of the church and said, literally said to him, the relationship you're in, that's
we had a visitor from another church. I don't know the man. The man don't know me. Call up to the front of the church, say, "You in a relationship right now?" I say, "Yeah." He say, "Okay, well," he say, "We don't really do this, as prophets, as people who we're not really supposed to prophesy like babies and marriage and that kind of thing." We say, he say, "But why would say if the Lord tell me to tell you something, I'll tell you." He say, Lord to tell you the person in a relationship with now, that's the one. And I already tell me, and I just tell me, I know. He say, okay, you know. I say, yeah, I know. And I went back to my seat.
At that
And that
point,
was it.
we weren't
I mean,
ready.
and that wasn't it, but
Sorry.
that was like my fourth confirmation.
At that point, we weren't in any. I wouldn't say we weren't in any love relationship. We weren't on each other like rice. We weren't. It was nothing like that. So I don't think that we had the. I don't want to call it an opportunity, but I don't think that we had the time or the experience of kind of fleshing out each other. We were able, hi, in a short space of time, we were able to see a lot of the aspects of each other's personality in a very short space of time. I took on like 3 months because I got on a plane in 3 months and left. Because the reason why I left is because I knew. Now, not because he told me, God tell him something, mean I'm gonna run with it. I'm not doing that. There are crazy people out there and there are crazy prophets out there. Guys, watch yourselves. But I didn't just pick up what he said and ran with it. There was a piece about every conversation with Bryant. I don't think I ever told him that. But there was never a conversation that I felt trapped, or that I felt this conversation getting weird, or that I felt this person coming on. Well, it was never in that way. So to say that I felt compatible to him, or that we were compatible with each other, it was more of, for me, it was more of literally divine inspiration. This is what my peace feels like. At least God to me. I don't know what God was saying to him because I never shared this with Brad before. This is what my peace feels like. This is what my warmth feels like. Literally, one of our conversations, another one. I heard God say to me, I am restoring you. I heard God say that to me. I think I may have mentioned it to him, but I heard God say that to me. And those were the things, for me, it was more along the lines of really listening, observing, and really feeling the aspects of the personality of God really mirrored in man. And that is really who a husband is supposed to be. He's called to love his wife like God loves the church. And that is not, sometimes we take that to be romantic, like he will do anything for me. No, it really is God's peace, God's love, God's warmth. Are these the things that you feel in this relationship? Are these the things that you see in this person? And are these the things that you feel coming to you from these were just conversations, because there was nowhere to go after somebody. God tell you, God tell them, you are their wife. First of all, I was ready to say, Palos, pick up your keys and bump. Pick up your keys and bump. I was ready to say that. However, he said that to me, and all I said to him was, okay. For any other crazy person to say that to me, I would say, Palos, instant block and delete. Because it's a very strange thing. But
it's
again,
crazy. If somebody tell me they would have done that, I call them crazy too. So, they could judge me. I pull it up. I would judge me, right? You had to be sure.
Oh gosh, again, and, it was the peace that I felt in that moment and in every other conversation from that I would say was the driver, as opposed to compatibility. That's what I would say. I don't know if you would say this.
And I think sometimes we downplay the divine input of God when it comes to our future and our marital future. Like, you feel that you concerned about who you're going to get married to, and that's important to you, and you can handle the stress the rest of your life if it go left. God is even more concerned about that than you can ever be, because God not playing with his purpose out here. God not playing with his destiny and everything he placed inside of you for the last 20-something, 30-something, 40-something years. God not going and just play with that and allow some, raggedy-daggedy. God is not doing that. Sorry if I offended any raggedy-daggedy's out there. I was trying to behave. Right?
I hope that answers the question. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry for not.
But
no, you're answering. You're doing a great job. I just
let us not downplay God's role in our marriage. Like literally ask God, is this people? I didn't even get time to ask God. To tell you the truth. Like I didn't even get time.
God just
Yeah, I didn't
upfront.
get
God
time to
didn't
ask
wait.
Him. You know when I asked God? You know when I asked God, right? Yes, when I had, I think I'm here. I need some fun. So when it happened to me, like God told me, yeah, what I sit down speaking there, and God just tell me, this young lady that is speaking to is your wife. Clear as they. If
And you
some
didn't
people
ask him after that?
and here are some things, right? If you never, I mean, I know that that's hard for some people to accept who never, like, who do have a relationship with God. Some people just do believe that God could talk to you and all of that kind of thing. I know that hard for some people to accept, but it's a reality. God has spoke to his children and God talks to me, right? So there's this way that God speaks to me. And when he speaks to me, I know for sure. So when I study the word, something happens to me. I have a unique experience. When I study the word and I receive a revelation from God, I have a very unique experience. There's something that happens to me that only happens to me in that time when I study the word and I get a revelation. So let me see if I can break it down for you. When you eat something very cold, we get something called a brain freeze, right? That's a unique experience. You can agree on that? Like, you don't get
Yeah.
that when you're bumped into, you don't get that when you get a headache. You don't get a brain freeze or any other thing, but when you eat something very cold. Um, it is a unique, something that happens to me, a unique experience happens to me. It's not goosebumps, right? That is not that, right? But there's something that happens to me in my spirit when I study the word and I get a revelation from God. I am talking to this young lady, and that happened to me. And the Lord tell me, this person you're talking to is your wife. And I am like, go for it, boy. Or, tell her or don't tell her, go for it. Or. And I said, boy, I going fit. I said, I don't know how you're going to take this. But the Lord just tell me that she's my wife. See, I know that's a real crazy thing to say. I don't know.
He left after that. We spoke for about a minute after, and then
No, which one happened
you
first?
left after.
One of them happened first. Either the revelation, when the name, the knowing that
The happened
your
first, and then
watch me, but once the two of them thing happen in about 10 minutes time, I pack up, partner. I go, yeah, the next thing too. I pack up. Now we're talking for all the time now, right? And I drive from Diego Martin to Claxton Bay, talking to the Lord, Lord, what is this? What is this? What is this? I don't know what's going on here. This thing happening. I don't know this girl like that. Just say, well, we in a relation. I don't know what is happening. Reach home now, in front of my house. My phone go pling, pling. Look at my phone. You and Nae Williams have been friends on Facebook for 1 year. What's wrong? I didn't know what to do. Like what is the possibility of all of these things happening? That thing popping up in the evening like 6 o'clock. Like I wasn't, I had internet up here too. I have data. So why is it popping up at 6 o'clock to tell me after all of that you and me have been friends on Facebook for 1 year? Crazy. Crazy, crazy. So what I want to tell you all is that, and for maybe everybody else who is listening, God is very interested in who He will have you spend the rest of your life with. He's very, and it's all his heartache and pain and sorry you're going through that you think will last the rest of your life. And you think, what's wrong, you just bad lucky. When you're going through all of that, God has something special for you.
it's a process.
God has something special for you. Like when you're questioning what really going on here, boy, this thing was supposed to work out. I know about all of that. I know about all of that. Trying to God. That thing was supposed to work out. I shame, I embarrass everybody with my business. I was with somebody popular, it break up, thing happened, she go on so with somebody else. I know about that. I know about that. My encouragement to you is that God has somebody special for you that He set apart for you, and He preparing you for that person. Don't wild out. Don't be. You can't get married to somebody and you're with somebody else, right? Allow yourself the time. Go ahead.
Something I was going to say. I can't remember. Oh, I was going to say Nay. You made a comment that stood out to me a lot, and Ronnie made a comment too. And anytime somebody says it, I'm going to continue to drive it home because I can identify with it, and I will continue to speak about it. And Mateela and I often speak about it too. You said the peace of God, and I think in approaching courtship, reapproaching courtship, if you never caught before and you're going to court, the peace of God is one. If it's not a red flag, I guess it's a green flag or a white flag, a green flag. Let's say green flag.
I guess I'm green for go.
Yeah, green for go, yeah. Is one green flag that will always fly. And I think the peace of God being absent, nothing could, once the peace of God is in there, or once you're not at peace, that's it just, nothing could fly. Nothing could fly. Nothing could fly. And I remember Tila and I, had a conversation about it. I know she said anytime in a hard spot, not just courtship or anything, once the peace of God is not there, run.
Yeah.
Once it's not that peace,
Judge your
run.
peace.
Yeah, judge your peace. That's what people said, judge your peace. So I will always forever be an advocate for peace, and I just wanted to drive in that point.
Yes.
Woo.
Gosh. Peace. Peace
That
priceless,
headache, that
yes?
headache though. Oh, gee.
Peace priceless.
Yeah, well,
Protect
You
your
can't pay for
peace.
that peace. You can't pay for peace. So think about it. Millionaires is one piece in it. Billionaires, one piece in it. You can't pay for peace. So you see that peace that comes from God?
Protect it.
Yeah, you're a
Guard
real
it.
protector. You're a real
Guard
guardian.
your heart.
yeah, I love that. I love that.
Well, we've come to, I guess, the end of our discussion with Bryant and Nae. I mean, you guys think you won't answer any questions well, or you were not sure if your experience was, what we were looking for. But across the board, different things happen in relationships, different for different people.
Yeah.
And no experience could ever be discounted. You guys would have shared a lot of things that we could take home. For those of us that are running the race a little bit behind you all, insights and stuff. And I mean, as you said, judging your peace one and not discounting the fact that God is very much interested in what is going on. Now, quickly before we go, we have a mic drop segment that we normally do. It's how it works is we give you we give either of you a word, and when you get that word, you drop a little motivation for the community based on the discussion we had. So our discussion was approaching dating. We might say, okay, the mic drop is leaf. You relate leaf to our session in some way, giving us that lasting message for the community, right? I was just a very, very good example. So Candace normally gives the mic drop words. So if Chelsey,
Wow. She went first, right? She went
No, we will just decide who goes. Go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah,
you
you
don't
just decide who will go.
You know what I mean?
Have to.
Okay.
So yeah, Chelsey.
All right, you all ready?
Right. Yes.
And your word is stream.
Scream.
Stream. Yeah, stream.
I'm looking like Brian couldn't know how to do it.
Okay. This is me giving her practice.
Jesus.
Okay, good.
Guys, I think I'm good with words, but oh my God.
You can take it.
All right. Stream, yes? Stream, right? Stream.
Stream. Stream.
Allow the natural flow of God in your life, even as it relates to relationships. So sometimes we focus a lot on relationships, and I want relationships to work, but allow the natural flow of God, which is to seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things will be stream.
Do you?
Yeah, basically, that's what it is.
Oh my goodness. Thank God this is not
I thought you were going to speak horrible there. I was
Yeah,
soaking it in.
let it stream. Let it stream, bro. Let it stream. All right.
Thank you, Brian.
It was awesome having you all. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thank you
you
so much.
already. I love how real both of you all were, and so honest, so honest. I appreciate it. I think, and that's what Walk That Talk is about, bringing honest talk to Christian folk. Because let's be real, we wouldn't have spoken this free within a youth meeting, within the 4 walls of a church. We probably wouldn't have
Yeah.
done it. And a lot of Christians have a lot of questions. Majority of Christians, when through a breakup, don't know how to get back on their feet. They like Bryant, they say they're done, they're not going back, and it just
Yeah.
need a little reassurance. So, Walk That Talk is basically bringing conversations to people that don't come to them, and you
Mhm.
all did an excellent job. We are so thankful.
You all brought
We give you a virtual hug. And I pray that God continues to bless your marriage. I know you're now start, but I know you'll have a beautiful journey ahead. And I guess I know with all your frankness and all your honesty that nothing can really, because you look like you've won something. I guess you can say, yo, Brian, listen to me. So I know that
Same way.
honesty and you will reach a lot of places, and that I pray that you will really be a marriage that us as single young women can look up to. And then when we get our partners, we can look at you all as mentors. So God bless you all and God keep you all, and thank you all so much again.
the last thing I want to say, though, I know that was the bye, but it really is a blessing to us to see that young people, young Christian people like yourself and Nay, um, are so much in tune with God and allowing God to have his way and being obedient to the words. Like Bryant, as you said, hearing God say certain things, a lot of us will hear in one conversation, this is going to be your wife, and you go in and freeze up and be like, well, me saying nothing. Next thing she think I crazy, next thing, whatever, whatever. But, you both of you, your obedience is very encouraging. And I pray that God blesses you all and continues to keep you all and that you all will continue to make yourselves available for the benefit of everybody that will be under your voice. So blessings to you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, and blessings to both of you, and for our tech girl, hey, for ensuring that this program really reaches the young people. Like you said, many of us don't have this conversation in our youth group. Many of us shy away from the topic. The church is kind of shy away from it for many years, and I'm glad to see that you guys have seen the need and have picked it up. So kudos to you all. Thank you for hosting a beautiful session. We apologize for wherever we were not able to answer maybe in the typical way, but our God is not a typical God,
Yeah.
and so He has not done a typical thing in us.
Mhm.
And so, thank you to both of you, to three of you, and to even the persons who were able to join in. Thank you
Yes.
guys so much.
Thanks to everyone who looked on. We don't, well, can't really say the names, but I saw some Nicholas and some other people who looked on, and we are so, thanks for sharing this time with us, and we hope that we were a blessing. Thank you for having us walk that talk, and we know that the rest of episodes and seasons are going to be just as fun. Yeah. So everybody just like the page, hit like on the Facebook, walk that talk, and we'll see you again soon.
Take
All right,
So
great.
whoever you have at the next session. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Bye bye.
Have a great evening, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.